Hi, everybody. We are back now for this next session. I can't believe how fast the morning is going. I am pleased to introduce the speakers for this particular breakout session. Ximena DeCaire is manager of the Clinical Trials Unit, and Zoe Ignacio is an oncology nurse at CancerCare Manitoba. They are going to present on the topic of clinical trials. So, welcome, Ximena and Zoe.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending the session, and thank you, Cheryl, for the introduction. I am just going to share my slide here. There we go. Let me see. Okay. Okay, this is our disclosure. We don't receive financial support for this presentation, and as employees of CancerCare Manitoba, we aim to provide an objective, evidence-based, and balanced information from multiple credible sources. This is our equity commitment. In preparation for this presentation, we have considered the health equity resource for presenters provided by the Conference Planning Committee. This was provided to help presenters reflect on how topics and content can have good effects or bad effects on people or populations who are underserved. I think I've advanced it too fast. Okay, there we go. These are our objectives today. Learn what clinical trials are and why doctors use them. Discover how past clinical trials have led to the treatments we use now. Get a simple overview of how clinical trials have helped find new treatments and the rules that keep participants safe. Understand the different steps of clinical trials and important terms like placebo and randomization. Find out how to tell if information about health information is reliable and trustworthy. Acknowledge equity, diversity, and inclusion in research. Learn how to join or support clinical trials. From our objectives, this is the outline of our talk. What are clinical trials? Clinical trials, also called experimental study or interventional study, are a clinical research involving people to look at new ways safely and effectively of preventing, diagnosing, treating, and improving the quality of life of those affected by human diseases, including cancer. Examples of clinical trials are medications, new or already approved medications for certain disease or type of cancer, and testing it on a different types of cancer. Biological products such as vaccines and blood products, surgical procedures, radiologic or imaging procedures, medical devices, new combination treatments, preventive care, or change in practice or alternate procedures, and others. Clinical trial is one of the types of clinical research. Clinical research is a general term of research conducted on humans. Other types of clinical research are observational, epidemiological, such as gathering data, behavioral, translational research, which involves collection and studying of body fluids such as blood, urine, saliva, to understand a certain type of disease or develop better treatments. All of these studies are also being done here in cancer care aside from clinical trials. How clinical trials help us today? What are the benefits of clinical trials? It advances medical knowledge by helping doctors and scientists learn more about cancer and find new ways to treat them. It improves human health by improving the quality of life, help people live longer, and manage symptoms better. Clinical trials help discover new standards of medical care, new ways to do surgery, give radiation, combine treatments for better outcome. They also test new drugs, devices, or more precise treatment. It makes treatment safer by collecting important data to check if a treatment is safe for people to use. Clinical trials are the best way to learn how effective a new treatment is compared to current options. They give people new treatment options, especially for serious illnesses like cancer. Participants in trials can get early access to promising new treatments that might not be available to everyone yet. Over the last 40 years, the impact of clinical trials has reduced cancer rates and deaths, helped people live longer, made it possible to detect cancer earlier, and improve ways to manage cancer symptoms and side effects. Joining a clinical trial is a way to give back. By participating, people help future generations who may face the same disease. Participation in trials could one day save the life of someone we know or related to us, or we don't know and not related to us, but can benefit from better treatments, being cured from cancer, and living a better life with cancer. It is a gift that helps society move closer to a healthier future. Many routine of care or standard of care of prevention, screening, diagnosis, and treatment are the results of past clinical trials. Clinical trials help find ways to lower the chances of getting cancer, find cancer earlier, improve cancer diagnosis, create better treatments, make treatments more targeted for fewer side effects, and help people with cancer live better lives. This is why clinical trials are so important for making progress against cancer. Among the cancer treatment options, a clinical trial could be another option for cancer treatment. Clinical trials may offer access to experimental treatments that are not available through standard of care. If you are considering your treatment options, ask your doctor if clinical trials might be right for you. You can also ask if there are any trials you might qualify for. Asking doesn't mean you have to join, it just helps you learn more about your choices. As of January 2023, these are the numbers of ongoing clinical trials in Canada. As you can see, clinical trials in cancer are the largest area of research in medicine and are quickly advancing. Right now, more than 800 cancer treatments are being developed, offering hope to many people living with cancer. Learning from the past. The idea of clinical trials has been around for hundreds of years, but modern clinical trials started in the 20th century. Over time, the clinical trial process has improved, guided by stronger ethical rules that shape how trials are done today. The Declaration of Helsinki, created by the World Medical Association, set international rules for doctors doing research. These rules include doing studies in labs before testing on humans, creating a clear plan called protocol that explains why the trial is being done and the science behind it, having an ethics committee to review and approve the trial, making sure participants give informed consent before joining, ensuring that trials are conducted by qualified professionals. These guidelines help protect participants and ensure clinical trials are safe and ethical. In addition to the Declaration of Helsinki, the Council for International Organization of Medical Sciences and the International Council for Harmonization have created guidelines to protect public health and build trust in medical research. These guidelines focus on making sure medicines are safe, effective, high quality, and developed in a way that uses resources efficiently while meeting high standards. Today's ethical guidelines ensure that clinical trials are designed to minimize risk. The integrity of clinical trials is essential for earning and keeping the trust and confidence of people. In Canada, the Tri-Council Policy Statement, Ethical Conduct for Research Involving Humans, TCPS, is based on international guidelines. It is a joint policy created by Canada's three federal research agencies. The TCPS is Canada's main standard for ethical research involving humans. It guides the ethical design, review, and conduct of research, focusing on the three key principles: respect for persons, protecting the rights, dignity, and autonomy of participants, concern for welfare, ensuring participants' well being and minimizing harm, justice, treating patients fairly or participants fairly and equitably. Along with scientific and ethical guidelines, strict regulations are important to ensure that clinical research is done ethically, safely, and effectively. Health Canada is the national authority responsible for regulating, evaluating, and monitoring the safety, effectiveness, and quality of drugs, biologics, genetic therapies, and other health products available to Canadians. This shows the requirements and responsibilities of Health Canada for clinical trial drugs. Before a clinical trial can begin, it must be approved by a research ethics board at the trial site. Health Canada also reviews the scientific evidence behind a new treatment, checks the trial protocol, and ensures that the trial is legal, ethical, and well designed. They make sure the trial does not put participants at unnecessary risk. The rapid advancement of treatments in cancer have led to a rise in clinical trials, and clinical trials has become a complex activity which involves a number of people working together who are committed to conducting high quality of clinical trials. The people or groups of people in clinical trials are study sponsors, such as physician researchers from hospitals or universities, charity organizations, or pharmaceutical companies, who are responsible for overseeing and funding the trial. Clinical research organizations play a crucial role by managing the trial process. They help with the design, monitoring, and reporting of clinical trials, and often coordinate between the different teams involved. Medical writers help develop the protocol or study process, while biostatisticians analyze the data to ensure its validity and reliability. Research Ethics Board, which I will talk more on the next slide, the Data Safety Committee, who works to reduce risk for participants as much as possible. They ensure that the data is reliable, they monitor the trial's progress, and then they can stop the trial if safety concerns arise or once the objectives have been met. So one of the key requirements for starting research is Research Ethics Board approval. The REB will approve research if the research is scientifically sound. The potential benefit significantly outweighs the potential risk or harm. There is a clear process for informed consent and assent when applicable. Assent means that in addition to a parent's consent, a child of a certain age who understands the research, the risk, and the benefits may be able to agree to participate. By obtaining the child's assent, we show respect for them as individuals and recognize their right to be involved in the decision making process. Another important requirement is there must be justice or fairness in the selection of participants, ensuring everyone has an equal opportunity to be part of the study. At the clinical trials site, the team is made up of investigators and other key members such as study coordinators, research nurses, clinical research professionals involved in ethics, regulatory compliance, and data management, clinical research assistants, the pharmacy team, contracts and finance, and departments like imaging and laboratories. Each team member plays an important role in ensuring that scientific, ethical, and regulatory guidelines are followed and maintained throughout the trial. Most importantly, progress in the fight against cancer depends on the participation of people with cancer. Without the participation of people living with cancer, research would not be able to move forward. Before participating in clinical trials, it is essential that the participants provide their free, informed, and ongoing consent throughout the study. The informed consent process ensures respect for participants' rights, autonomy, and well being, while also making sure that their decision to participate is voluntary and fully informed at every stage. The purpose of informed consent in clinical research is to protect research subjects, ensure that potential participants understand the benefits and risks of joining the study, provide participants with all the information they need to make an informed decision about whether or not to take part. Informed consent forms include key information such as the purpose of the study, why is it being done, the study procedures or activities, potential benefits and risk, any costs involved, and the rights of participants to refuse participation or withdraw at any time. It also explains the confidentiality measures in place to protect personal information, confirms that participation is voluntary, and informed consent form shares other important details participants should know before giving their consent. How clinical trials work. For a treatment to become a standard, widely accepted treatment, it must go through several steps or series of steps known as phases. All the phases of clinical trial aim to find out safety information. The early phase is called preclinical tests, which is testing done in the labs to make sure treatment will work and it is safe before introducing to humans. Phase 1, this is the first time the new treatment is tested on humans. The goal is to learn how the treatment affects the body, find a safe dose, and figure out the best way to give the treatment. Participants in this phase are closely monitored because of the risk and the need for close of observation. Only a small number of people, usually 50 to 30, are asked to participate. There's also phase 0, which is the very early stage tested on humans, using very small dose to see how the medication affects the body from absorbing, metabolizing, and eliminating, which are also observed on phase 1. And the number of people are usually also very small, about 10 to 15. Okay, phase 2, in addition to monitoring safety, the main goal of this phase is to determine if the new treatment works. Researchers want to see if the treatment has an effect on a specific disease like cancer. Based on the safe dose and method established in phase 1, this phase involves randomly assigning participants to different treatment groups. They may receive the treatment in different ways or at different doses to see which one provides the best balance of safety and effectiveness. Placebos are not used in phase 2, and typically fewer than 100 people are asked to participate. Phase 3, in addition to monitoring safety again, the main goal of this phase is to compare the new treatment or a new use of an existing treatment with the current standard treatment. This helps researchers see if the new treatment is more effective or has other advantages. Phase 3 involves a larger group of participants, typically ranging from 100 to several thousands of people. The results from this trial provide important evidence to help decide whether the new treatment should be approved for public use. With phases of drug development, some researchers design trials that combine two phases into a single trial, such as combining phase 1 and 2 or phase 2 and 3. And this approach allows for smooth transition between phases and can help answer research questions more quickly. Phase 4 studies are conducted after a drug has been approved for public use and is available for doctors to prescribe. These studies continue to monitor the drug's long-term safety and effectiveness in a larger group of people. Even though the drug is already available, phase 4 studies help answer important questions about how it works over time and whether it causes any side effects that might have been seen in an earlier phase. On average, it takes about 10 to 15 years for a new drug to move from its initial discovery to being available on the commercial market. Let's go to important terms. So we have learned from previous presentation that clinical trials follow strict guidelines to protect participants. And one important part of this is having a protocol. A protocol is a detailed written plan for the clinical trial. It explains why the trial is being done, what it will involve, how the study will be carried out, and why each part of the study is necessary. The protocol includes information about the reason for doing the study, who can join the study, how many people are needed, any drugs or treatments that will be given, how they will be given, the dose and how often, what medical tests participants will have and how often, what type of information will be collected about the participant. And study protocols can be very long and complex, but they are essential for ensuring the trial is carried out safely and effectively. Blinding or masking in clinical trials, why is it needed? Blinding is used in clinical trials to prevent bias or unfairness that could occur if participants or the research team know who is receiving the active treatment or a placebo. Bias could result from differences in how patients are assessed, treated, or how results are interpreted by the patient, investigator, or others. By keeping this information hidden, blinding ensures the study is fair and the results are more reliable. And there are three types of blinding: single blind, double blind, and triple blind. The most common is double blind. The single blind is the participant does not know which treatment they are receiving. Double blind, both the participants and healthcare providers do not know which treatment is being given. Triple blind, participants, healthcare providers, and statisticians or monitors do not know which treatment is being given. If a study is not blinded, it is referred to as unblinded, open study, or open label. After the primary objective of a clinical trial have been met, the trial may move from a blinded to an unblinded phase. Once the trial is complete and data has been analyzed, participants are informed about the treatment they receive. Sometimes unblinding one participant may be necessary to provide appropriate medical care if that will arise, um, especially if they need help for issues related to the trial or for other health problems. Randomization. Randomization is the process of randomly assigning research participants to either a treatment group or a control group in order to compare the results of different treatments. This process helps eliminate bias or unfairness in selecting who receives which treatment, both intentionally and unintentionally. Randomization can be done using simple or complex method on the computer program. The separate groups formed through randomization are called arms of the study. The control group, shown in the green circle below, is a group of participants who do not receive the treatment being studied. Instead, might receive the standard treatment or placebo. And the experimental group, shown in red circle, is the group receiving the treatment that is being tested or investigated in the study. By comparing the results of these two groups, researchers can evaluate the effectiveness of the treatment under investigation. We have mentioned placebo. What is a placebo? A placebo is a substance that looks like the medicine being tested, but it does not contain any active ingredients. It is used in clinical trials to help prevent both patients and doctors from knowing which treatment group the participants have been assigned to. This helps keep the study fair and unbiased. When is a placebo used? Placebos are often used when there is no standard treatment for a condition. They can also be used in studies to compare a combination of treatments, such as standard treatment plus a placebo versus a standard treatment plus a new treatment. At the end of the study, after the data has been analyzed, participants are informed whether they received the placebo or the actual treatment. Eligibility criteria in clinical trials. Eligibility criteria define who can or cannot join a clinical trial. These criteria are divided into inclusion and exclusion factors. Inclusion criteria are the specific requirements a participant must meet in order to join a clinical trial. Common inclusion criteria include having a certain type or stage of cancer, being in a specific age group, having a certain health status, having or not having received specific treatments in the past. These criteria help ensure that participants in the trial are as similar as possible. This way, the study doctors can be confident that the results are due to the treatment being tested rather than other factors. Exclusion criteria are just as important as inclusion criteria because they help protect participants from potential harm, or the treatment would not be beneficial. These criteria help identify people who should not join a clinical trial. For example, some people have other health problems aside from cancer that could be made worse by the treatments being tested. Medical tests are used to screen potential participants and make sure they are not put at a greater risk. Another exclusion is people who have already had cancer treatment. In these cases, doctors may not be able to tell if any side effects or benefits from the new treatment being studied um, are from the previous treatment they had. Endpoints are the goals or objectives of a clinical trial used to measure the success of the trial being studied. The primary endpoint is usually focused on survival, how long it takes for cancer to progress or worsen. The secondary endpoint often looks at other important factors like the patient's quality of life during or after treatment. These endpoints help researchers understand whether treatment is effective and improves patients' overall well-being. This is a sample calendar showing the study visits for clinical trial versus standard of care. Studies requirements are shown in gray. On the side, you'll see cycle numbers and week numbers, which help track the timeline of the trial. The sample dates are displayed on the white background to clearly highlight when specific visits or procedures will take place. And I'm just going to show you in red highlight here. We'll see the drug treatment row. In the drug treatments here, you'll see the standard of care on one side and clinical trial below, and you'll see all the check marks indicating the visits are required for both options. In some trials, the clinical trial visits may be more frequent or involve additional appointments compared to the standard of care treatment. Let's look another one. I know my time is done. The procedures, and you'll see the standard of care. Standard of care, and you see on the standard of care procedure there's exam, x-rays, and urine tests, and the check marks are on July 4 and August 22. In contrast, the clinical trials, you can see that aside from the exam, x-ray, and urine test, you can also see EKG and Magastan added. This demonstrates that clinical trials require more tests and visits. This is ensure participants remain eligible for the study and to monitor where their condition has worsened. Um, so you'll notice that clinical trials involve more visits, exams, imaging, and tests compared to standard of care. Some patients find this extra monitoring valuable as it helps them track how their cancer is progressing. Additionally, the close monitoring allows for more direct contact with the research team through research nurses, which many participants appreciate. It gives them someone to reach out to easily and provide more time with the care team. Okay, this is the end of my presentation, and I will hand over the floor to Ximena.
Great. Thank you, Zoe. Can everyone see my slide? I think so. Super, thank you. So I'm gonna kind of track my time. I've been told we're running a little bit behind. I actually have about 20 slides to show you, but I don't think I have the capacity to do that in the time limited. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna quickly go through it. I'm gonna highlight the most important things that I want you to think about as you make decisions about clinical trials and how you can reach us. Really, that's really my message here as I present. Okay, so thinking about time, let's take a moment to now consider how to make a decision as to whether or not you should participate in a clinical trial. Okay, so it's essential to remember that participating in a study is a choice and you can withdraw at any time. If you decide to take part in a clinical trial, make sure you fully understand what is involved and only give your consent when you're completely informed. It's also a good idea to talk to your family, friends, and or family doctor. If you have questions, we also encourage you to talk to your medical oncologist, radiation oncologist, hematologist, or surgical oncologist at CancerCare Manitoba. As well, reach out to your research nurse and ask lots of questions. Our team is here to help you. If you're thinking of taking part of a clinical trial, maybe find out as much information as you can and consider taking a family member or a friend along for support and for help in asking questions or to help them or to get them to record the answers. Plan what to ask ahead of time, but don't hesitate to ask any questions that you think of while you're there. Here's some possible questions you might want to ask. Why is the study being done? How long do I have to make a decision? How long will I be in the trial? What kinds of tests and treatments are involved? How often are they done? What are the possible side effects or risks of the new treatment? And what are the possible benefits? How will we know if the treatment is working? If the treatment is working for me, can I keep getting it even after the clinical trial ends? I will be happy to share this slide after my conference for anyone who is wishing to have a copy of these questions. You might also want to consider whether a participant, if you have any costs or whether the cost will be covered, like transportation or parking for the day. Every study is different, but clinical trial participants usually do not have to pay out of pocket to participate, and some clinical research studies offer a flat rate for day of travel. It is also important to think about how will it affect your daily life. Depending on your age, where you live, your social factors, you may consider what kind of supports you will need before you consent. And finally, you might want to ask your doctors these questions. Participating in a trial also requires you to take some responsibilities. These are some of the things you have to consider when you are participating. I'm not going to read this slide. So how to identify good and true information. I would like to give you some quick, simple tips on how to identify them and online. And when searching about cancer you have or about the latest research information on the internet. It is important to evaluate health-related resources found online. Don't be misinformed. Information related to treatment options may be extremely complex and confusing. Having access to the internet available 24/7 can be empowering, but it can also be frustrating. You may receive conflicting health-related information from families and friends and the media, and excessive information can challenge you emotionally and psychologically. So what are the credible sources for cancer research? When searching online, first look to see who is the sponsor. Is it a government agency, a medical school, hospital, university? These sponsors will publish material with sources you can trust. Commercial sites that end, for example, with .com may not be helpful depending if the internet, for example, is trying to sell something. BC Cancer Agency created a fact or fiction pamphlet called Find Good Health Information on the Internet. CancerCare Manitoba also recommends health and cancer websites, such as the ones listed here. I've included a QR scanning code for you to review what's available and see more resources. You might be wondering where to find information about Canadian clinical trials. I suggest you go to the Government of Canada and search Health Canada Clinical Trials Database to find the latest list of open trials across Canada. I've attached the link. Where else can I get information about trials? You can also access Canadian Cancer Trial Network at the link provided, which is called 3CTN, or go to the clinicaltrials.gov, which is an international clinical trial listing. So now let's talk about the importance of equity, diversity, and inclusion in research. Achieving equity, diversity, and inclusion in the Canadian research enterprise is essential for continuing to generate innovative and impactful research necessary to advance knowledge and respond to national and global changes. Equity means ensuring fair access to healthcare and research opportunities. Diversity involves representing different backgrounds, for example, race, gender, age, socioeconomic status in research. And inclusion ensures that all voices are valued and considered. Here are some of the benefits of incorporating equity, diversity, and inclusion to research. It makes sure that results are fair and universally applicable. It helps identify and reduce gaps in care and ensures quality outcome, and ensures healthcare and research care is accessible, fair, and beneficial to all. Healthcare that reflects diverse patient populations can improve care quality for everyone. So what is the clinical trial unit, you might wonder? The clinical trial unit facilitates and coordinates clinical research in the areas of cancer prevention, treatment, palliation, and quality of life. Our in-house oncologists, investigators, and support team enter about 300 new patients annually into about 120 adult and pediatric clinical trials. Here's our clinical trial unit organizational structure, supported by pharmacy, finance team, medical oncologists from different disease sites, and of course, myself as a manager. So what do we ensure to go get the best care possible? Disease site groups, which are multidisciplinary teams of experts who treat a specific type of cancer, evaluate trials felt to be the most potential benefit to the people of Manitoba. These trials are brought forward to the clinical trial unit to open and conduct. It involves 50 plus dedicated team members of ethic and regulatory, data entry, nurses, managers, and research support office. We have satellites located in Brandon, as well as we work closely with the Manitoba Prostate Center research team. This is our website that you can look at. I've included our link here, and also our contact information. A belief that research is the only cure for cancer comes from our past experiences that every clinical advancement for treatment cancer has come about through the continued pursuit of scientific discovery. There are many other ways to participate in clinical trials. It does not have to be a direct involvement or participating in a study. You may be the person who is supporting the loved one who is in a clinical trial or thinking of participating. Taking time to assist your loved ones with decision-making process is so important, as well as sharing with them where to find the right information. If you're personally taking part of a clinical trial process, you may wish to participate in patient advocacy group or participate in our new emerging role of patient as a partner in clinical research development. Part of the answers to improving the system of cancer clinical research and development lies in reducing barriers that prevent patients from participating in studies. You may be the person that is willing to raise awareness or advocate, or perhaps you or your families may be interested in fundraising for research, as our own CancerCare Manitoba Foundation supports local pediatric and adult trials, and we are grateful for their support. So what is my take-home message, or our take-home message? Clinical trials are research studies that test new intervention to prevent, diagnose, or treat disease, including cancer. Many of today's standard medical care developed or improved from findings in clinical trial. Contributing to clinical trials, whether by participating, sharing information, supporting a loved one, or advocating for research, offers hope to people affected by cancer and moves us forward together. Thank you. I will now take any questions.
Ximena, thank you so much for your presentation, and you really just summarized everything that I think folks wanted to know, because I see one question in particular about their cancer, but you explained how they can find clinical trials that are particular to them. So
Yeah,
that, I think, is the biggest takeaway. Maybe one quick question, Ximena,
for
which is
sure, for sure.
a bit of a comment too. It was helpful when I participated in research to have a discussion on the phone, receive forms with info and consent electronically, and to discuss again in person and to review consent at ongoing points. Is this a standard process?
Absolutely, absolutely. So our clinical team, I think sometimes we hear that they get even more attention, right? Because our clinical team is watching you really closely throughout your entire journey and checking in to see how you're doing. It is standard of care for our research nurses to reach out, check to see how you're doing. There's more contacts with patients, and as well as more clinical visits with that specialist to ensure that you're on track with the protocol.
Wonderful.